Hello, hello. Good afternoon. This is cybersecurity expert Reginald Andre with Arc Solvers. And today we have a special guest with us. We have Matthew Koenig with Breach Secure Now. And we're going to be talking all about cybersecurity and how and why you should be protecting your business from these cyber threats. In 2020 right now, there has been so much cyber attacks that's happening in small businesses. And as last month, we were celebrating National Cybersecurity Month, we actually wanted to bring in experts, not just hear from us, but actually bring it from experts across the US and across all different industries. So Matthew, thank you so much for joining me today.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Awesome. So for those of you that are listening and they don't know what is Breach Secure Now, they don't know who you are, if you would like to give a brief intro.
Sure. Brief intro is we specialize in human security. So everything that people do that can cause all kinds of issues within your organization and lead to security breaches of all different types.
Awesome. And how long have you been with Breach Secure Now?
I've been with Breach Secure now a little over a year, but I've been in the cybersecurity industry for, 20 years now since it kind of first developed. And I've been in IT over 30 years.
Nice, nice. All right. I know you have an iPhone. I guess that's no problem.
Thought I turned it off.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, so let's get right into it. You know, like I mentioned, we have a lot of clients and prospect clients that are always reaching out to us and always wanting to know, what is it that I have to do? What is all this cybersecurity stuff? And I want to get right into it. So for the first thing I want to talk to you about is there's a word out there and it's very scary. People think about, oh my gosh, what's this? And they hear the word dark web. So can you give us a quick overview of what is the dark web and why do businesses need to know about it? Because what's so important that a business needs to know about it?
Sure. The dark web is a place that you can't find through search engines that lots of nefarious people have put together. And, it's a really interesting place because you can get all kinds of things that you shouldn't on the dark web. And one of the reasons corporations and people in general should be worried about it is because as people go after trying to breach organizations and gain your data, they'll put it out on the dark web for sale. And literally what you don't know is that they'll bundle 5,000 email addresses and sell them for a couple $100. So it's not expensive. They'll, sell credentials, they'll sell credit card numbers, they'll sell social security numbers. And everybody thinks it's worth millions and millions and millions. And yeah, they can make that as they breach people. But at the same time, it's actually very affordable, which is scary because then they can use that to go after your organization, your employees, and other people. And that's where they make the real money.
Wow. So so the dark web is like a broker. So basically someone steals the information, then they're now selling it. And then now that person who purchased it is now the one who's actually doing all the bad stuff.
Yep. And people always think my stuff isn't out there. My stuff couldn't have gotten out there. Let me tell you, we've run software that we have before. I've seen other people run other software before. You'd be surprised what's out there. You'd be surprised what people have their hands on. And that's why one of the things that's incredibly important is people use the same password over and over again. Well, I helped run a search for an organization a few weeks ago. I won't name them and I won't name the password because it was pretty nasty. But this person used the same password over and over again. It came up on over 20 sites. Wow. 20 sites, every one of their sites that they were a part of and their emails have the same password. So if you got that password, jackpot.
Wow. Yeah. And that's why we always tell our clients, never use the same password for more than one website, and if maybe, even if it's a phrase or something like that, me personally, I always tell our clients, change the letter, change the number, put some type of combination in there. And of course, most importantly, use a password management tool, but we know that sometimes is difficult. So, and how much did you say they're selling the information for?
They could bundle 1,000 social security numbers and sell it for several $100. I mean, they're not
Wow.
selling your information for a lot of money. And one of the other things that I love is people go, well, I'm not a big organization. Why would they come after me? I don't have a lot of money. Why would they come after? They don't care. If they can get information, it's worth money to them. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter if you're a small doctor's office, if you're a three-man organization. It doesn't matter. If you store personal information, you store financial information, guess what? It's just as valuable to them as anybody else anywhere else. And actually, it's easier to get. So if
Mhm.
I go after 10 smaller organizations versus one big one, I get the same amount of data that I can do damage with. But you know what? It was 4 times easier for me to get. So it was a much better steal for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay, so how do businesses then protect their information, or like how do they even know if their data is on the dark web?
Well, there's lots of different tools out there that they can have ARC solvers come in and run for them, and it'll pull down that data. There's human research as part of it. There's electronic research and technology with AI, and it'll go out and it'll look for those domains and those email addresses anywhere it appears on the web and anywhere they get a hit on for a particular website. So it'll bring back, who it is, what website, what email got compromised. And the scary part is it'll bring back if they got your password. And I'd say about 75% of the time, they got the password. 25% of the time, you're lucky they got the information, but they didn't actually get your password.
Mhm.
And therefore, you have the ability to change it. But once you're out there and once you're compromised, you're compromised. You need to do something really quickly to clean that up and fix that, or you're going to go down. And really, one of the other things that organizations don't realize is if I can get your personal information, then I can go after you. If I'm checking email at work, I can still touch your network.
Mm.
So if I'm checking my personal information on my laptop at your organization attached to the network, and I hit on a phishing email or I give out data or whatever, guess what? I'm attached to your network. So
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
gave them a hole.
Yeah, exactly. And then especially you have all those people working from home and things like that, that just even opens it more. We've
Absolutely.
had, right when COVID was happening, a lot of our clients didn't have a solution for the employees to work from home because there was never a need for it. And then the only other option you could do is, I mean, there's a shutdown. Friday everybody left, and Monday the government says you can't go back to the office. So of course everybody had to use their personal computer. So that's a huge risk that companies took.
Well, it's even more interesting with home office, right? I'd say you get a ton more productivity. Okay. There are a lot of advantages there depending on your business. There are a lot of businesses saying, you know what, we're going to get rid of our real estate and save a fortune on, real estate costs and rent and utilities there and everything. So in a lot of cases, employees love it. It's a benefit. They're more productive, and, you're saving a lot of money. On the other side, I do a lot of reading on cybersecurity in a lot of different places. And one of the things, I get is the Wall Street Journal cybersecurity articles that they put out every single week. And, it was an interesting tidbit that out of like 10,000 people they interviewed, about 90% of them admitted to using their work computer for personal use. Okay. Which I think is very common,
Right.
but it gets even worse. 50% of those people admitted that they let other people use their work computer for personal use. Like they're letting their kids do their schoolwork on it. They're letting their spouse go out and do shopping on it or check their email on it. So, I mean, it's just an ecosystem of a nightmare that's going on because people get more relaxed when they're home. They don't think.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And if they have kids like mine, he's before you know it, there's Roblox on it. There's Pokemon, and then who knows where he's downloading it from accidentally. Now there's malware,
Exactly.
and it's just a trickle.
And when people think that a lot of these websites are safe, guess what? Not. There's a
Mhm.
website out there, Steam. It's a very well-known gaming site. I mean, very well-known, very popular, very public, not, on the dark web. Tell you what, my kids would download a game and have viruses galore all the time. I'm glad I locked down their computers because, people were getting access and there were viruses and all kinds of other stuff that they were getting off that site because in some cases the games were shareware.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, okay, so we know businesses need to make sure they don't reuse their passwords, and if there is a data breach, they need to change it. So I'm taking there's like a system that actually allows someone to know when there is a like an alert. Like, so how do you know if your data is in the dark web?
Well, for instance, we have a tool that we provide to people like ARC solvers where you can go out and you can put in a company's domain as well as specific email addresses, and you can run it. And it goes out to the dark web as well as to a back-end human research team, which then based on all the data it pulls back, they verify the legitimacy of what's found. So you're able to get back a solid report that shows what was found, where it was found, what website it was found on, was the password cracked, and you can share that with that organization and sit down and go through it with them. Tell them what they need to do to effectively change things right now, and then come up with a plan ongoing. The software will also allow you to monitor on a regular basis what's happening with that domain. So literally anytime something pops up out there, you're going to know about it immediately. So it's a great ongoing dark web monitoring tool that will help you analyze and effectively gather that information almost real time. So you're able to keep up with that before you actually get breached.
That's awesome. Actually, someone in the comments put it's like a credit monitoring. So it's like, I guess if someone in Virginia is trying to lease a BMW under your name and your social, and you have credit monitoring, Equifax and those the big three, you're getting it. So that's an awesome analogy. And we also we did see some more people started to join. So thank you everyone for joining. We have cybersecurity expert Matthew in the house, and we are answering all questions about cybersecurity. So please go ahead in the comments if you do have any questions. Go ahead and put that. I'll be monitoring it as Matthew is speaking. So okay, so we got the dark web down. Now there is this thing that we called phishing. So let's talk about phishing for those that don't know what phishing is, and then we're going to lead it up to how we can make sure that employers are protecting their employees from phishing.
Sure. So phishing basically is someone sending out an email, okay? Someone contacting you via social media, someone sending out a text message. I mean, a lot of people don't think of phishing in all those cases. So there's regular phishing. I'm sending out a broadcast email to tons of people. And let's say it's an Amazon email and it says, and criminals are getting so sophisticated, right? It looks like it. The address is correct. I mean, a lot of times you could find little typos, or you could, go over the URL real quick and it was just obvious. It's not so obvious anymore, right? Amazon.com is their domain. They're doing Amazon.net or Amazon.org, which we all know is not them at all. But people are going in and going www.amazon. Okay, next. It looks really real and it says, for your latest order, click here for tracking information, for instance, right? Because people order from Amazon. So they may not get everyone, but they're going to get a lot of people. Some of the other things is they're going to send it. Like I got one last week. I got it to my work email. I never order stuff on Amazon to my work email, but the email looked really, really real. And had I not thought through that and went, wait a second, it never goes, I might have clicked on it. So there's generalized phishing that comes out there, and they're getting from banks, and they're using COVID as excuses, and they're using the election as excuses, and they're sending out things asking for you to fill out polls and, all kinds of stuff. Then there's something called spear phishing, and those are basically attacking a specific individual. They're going after you because they found your information on the dark web. They've gotten background on you, and they're going after you specifically. So they're sending things that they know are relative to you because they found information about you. Then there's big game phishing. That's going after, let's say, corporate executives, people that they know have money. Mm-hmm. There was some extortion phishing emails a while back that had to do with, let me say this delicately, adult content, where they were sending out stuff saying, look, I have through your video camera video of you watching adult content. If you don't pay me $300, in crypto, I'm going to release this video to everybody.
Right.
And, that's the kind of stuff they do. And again, you may never watch adult content. You may not like it, but there are people out there that do. And if they were, they're panicked, right? And they figure giving them $300, even if it might not be real, is easier. There's social media phishing. A lot of those things out there where it says, what kind of fish are you? If you were a Viking, what kind of Viking would you be?
Right.
Those are phishing. Those are attaching, because you notice it always says log in using your Facebook credentials. Okay. So I'm not saying every one of them is, but there are a lot of them that are. So when you're clicking on those things, they're getting information about you.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have information so I can actually target you specifically. There's texting. They're getting more sophisticated. They're sending texts that say, blah, 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 especially with the election. Take this poll. Please click here to get more information about X. And they click that and people go, what could they possibly get with texting? They verify your phone number. That's what they can get. And once they verify your phone number, they can use that to now go verify other things on you, because every little thing allows them to do stuff. Then they call it phishing. A lot of people wouldn't, but there's real time. There's phone calls. There's chat. There's a bunch of other things where they'll get information. I mean, everybody heard about the Twitter hack a while ago, and I know everybody's going, oh, big company. No. Juvenile scam. It was two 17-year-olds that called up and got employees to give them information that allowed them to hack in.
Wow.
Because people don't think. One of the better scams especially is, hi, I'm calling on behalf of the business owner, the executive. Okay. They're out right now and they're locked out. I'm trying to help them get back in. Can you help me? Can you give me their login information? Because I'm going to help them reset it. You'd be amazed in that heat of the moment how many people give that up.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot of the different types of phishing. And I know it's like, wait a second, I thought phishing was just emails.
Wow. So how does a business owner, they're trying to get their employee to work, and that's why they're there in the office, is to do that task. Mm-hmm. And now the employee, in addition to everything else that they're dealing with, now they're having to look out for these things. So what's the best way for a business owner to ensure that their employee is alert to things like this?
Sure. You got to train them like anything else, right? When I started playing soccer years ago, I didn't know anything about soccer, right? So you were going to run over me, dribble past me. If I was in the goal, you were going to take a shot and I was going to stand there and get hit in the head with it. You've got to train people what to look for, what it is that could happen, how it could come at them. Because like a lot of people didn't know about texting phishing. You don't know about it, you're not thinking it could happen, right? There was a thing years ago about MacBooks were completely safe. How can I get anything, right? So if you don't train them what to look for, okay, what it looks like, also what the topics might be that are relative to right now and where they might come from, things are going to happen. Mm-hmm. You've got to protect yourself through upfront training and then constant training on an ongoing basis. You also have to put in place policies and procedures. You need to put in some things that say, look, you're not allowed to do this. I need you to acknowledge that you understand the rules of the organization say you cannot do this any longer. And if you do, there will be consequences, possibly up to termination. But it needs to be in writing and it needs to be accepted by signature, okay? And electronic signature is best, of course, by all the employees so they get it. They get who it is, what it is, where it's coming from, what it looks like, what not to do, what to do. And more importantly, acknowledge the fact they get it. They understand it. They understand what you're trying to tell them. That's the way you start to do this. Now, it's not foolproof, but we've seen personally, usually anywhere from an 80 to 85% decrease after a couple months of doing this.
Awesome. And I totally agree with what you're saying there, because one of the things I like to tell my customers is this training that we're speaking of, it's not just the first day they started and they're given this big old binder. And of course, nobody's reading it, but they got 20 minutes to go over it, to sign it, to move on to the next thing. It's culture. It's something that you just have to continue and to instill in your employees. And I know you guys have a product that actually reminds the employees to on a weekly, bi-weekly. So talk about how businesses can instill this in the culture, of course, mentioning in the meetings, in the huddles that they have, but at the same time testing them just to see how astute they are when these emails are coming in.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the first thing is, as you said, and you hit on it, and it's absolutely perfect. It's cultural. If the executive management, the business owner, et cetera, doesn't care, no one's going to care. If they're sitting there surfing Facebook and people know about it, well, then they're going to go, why can't I surf Facebook? Evidently, it's safe. You know, if you're doing it, why can't I do it? Well, because I said so. Yeah, we all know how that flies.
Right.
So the first thing is there's cybersecurity training up front, right? There's the what we call annual cybersecurity training. It's a little longer. It probably takes about 30 minutes. It's about 45 questions. And that gets used as a baseline, right? What's your culture like? What's your cybersecurity awareness stance? You know, do your employees know anything about the basics? So you're able to get down what you need to train them on first and what they need to understand. Then there's, you know, phishing emails that go out to test them. And I'll get to how you deal with that in a second. But then there are weekly micro training bites, right? They're 1 to 3 minute videos. They're about 3 to 4 questions at the end. And it's keeping them constantly aware. And the nice thing about those is it's relative to today. A lot of the ones that are going out right now are election based, right? A lot of the other ones that are going out still are COVID based. And it's teaching people what is going on out there, what people are doing to try to trick them and giving up their information, and also keeps them up to date on the basics that they originally learned on an ongoing basis. One of the other things that's in place, just like anywhere else, you've got to test, you've got to manage. So one of the tools is called Catchfish, and it sits right in your email box. If you get an email and you think it's phishing, one of the old things that used to happen is you send it to IT, okay? And you sent this mail and this email and this email and this email and this email. But the problem with that is IT would get overwhelmed and not be able to do anything else for you, okay? So your MSP would be spending all their time doing that rather than making sure that your business stays up and running and profitable. But the second thing is now I have to wait. If I think it's an important email, but I'm not sure if it's phishing, now I got to wait for you to get back to me before I can take any action. So what Catchfish has is a button. You literally press it and it says, you know, is this phishing? And a side panel pops up. And if it's one of ours, if it's one of the phishing tests, right, that gets sent out from ARC solvers, it's going to say, woo, congratulations, you caught a fish. But what's neat about it, it doesn't just tell them they caught a fish. It shows them why it's a fish. It quickly shows you the email and underlines things, right? A double red means it's language. A single green means, you know, so there's like 3 or 4 pieces and it'll tell you why it's a phishing email. So you're learning on the spot with something right in front of you. If it's not one of ours, you can hit send for analysis, and through a bunch of AI and back-end machine learning, it'll go out and it'll analyze it on language, links, and attachments. And it'll come back and do the same thing and say from, you know, 1 to 10, or I'm sorry, 1 to 5, that's the likelihood that this is a phishing email. And again, it'll show it why you think so. So, you know, you may set a policy that says anything over a 3, don't touch, you know, do not touch, send that to me. Anything under a 3, it's acceptable for you to move forward, you know, kind of thing. But again, it helps them right then and there. It helps them learn right then and there. And it helps teach them what a phishing email could be for the next time. So they're able to recognize it. And the final thing is something called ESS. And it's an employee security score. And just like anything else, they need to be measured and monitored. So with all of this stuff, okay, they get a FICO score, like whoever said before. And it changes based on, did they take the training? Right? Did they blow off the micro training or did they take it? They get points or lack thereof. Did they pass it? They get points or lack thereof. Did they click on a phishing email? They get points or lack thereof. Did they, you know, pass their cybersecurity? Did their information end up on the dark web? All of these things either give them points or take away points because they start with about 300 to start with. And what ends up happening is you have a list of all your employees, and you can see if they're in the green, which is good, of course, and red is bad. How vulnerable is that employee to your organization? So you can address those things. And what a lot of organizations do is they gamify it. Hey, if you're in green for the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter, then we're going to give you an Amazon gift card, or we're going to give you an extra day off, or whatever it is, you gamify it. And let me tell you what, as much as you might not think employees jump on board, I can't tell you how many phone calls we get directly going, hey, I took this training and my ESS score didn't go up. If you make it culture and you put it in place and say you are being watched and managed to this, and everybody can see everybody else, even if you use nicknames, right? So they don't know who they are. I promise people will jump on board and want to have a high score.
That's awesome. The gamify, because I've actually seen it on the opposite side where they've actually made it part of their employee review. So when it's time for raises and things like that, because a lot of times the workers, they don't want to go through the next and watching the video and things like that. So they're like, hey, this is so important to us that if you continue to do it, you do a good score, we're gonna put that part of your percentage when it's time to talk about raises. But if you want to blow it off, hey, all right, when the end of the year comes and then we're talking about raises, we'll remember that.
Well, I also know a few mid-sized companies that have put it on the managers. And if you, let's say, have 4 or 5 employees, they don't even, I mean, they do go to the employee level, but they're looking at the manager and saying, this is one of your credentials and one of your KPIs. And if you want to keep your job, get bonuses, get a raise, et cetera, your people better be in the green. Because at any time they're not, then like you said, it's going to affect your raise, it's going to affect your bonus, and long-term, it's going to affect your review, you know, and over whatever period of time, it could affect your job maybe.
Perfectly said, perfectly said. So let's talk about what are the costs of not training your people?
Oh my God. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. You got to remember that a lot of people go compliance, you know, especially like HIPAA and PCI and all that other stuff, you know, that's out there. However, what they don't realize is, okay, if you don't at least do general cybersecurity, which in most cases satisfies 75% of whatever compliance, if you get breached, you've broken the compliance law. So you can say all you want, you don't care. Like with HIPAA, for instance, they're not going to come audit me, I'm too small. Guess what? You have a breach. Oh, you're getting audited. So from a pure standpoint of your organization and cybersecurity, it can cost you time. It could possibly close your business. You need to notify everybody that it occurred. There may be fines that you have to deal with, especially, you know, from a PCI standpoint, if you take credit cards with your business. You have to fix things. There may be audits depending on the size of your organization. There could be ransomware that you might have to pay in order to get your data back. I mean, the ultimate cost is going out of business. I've seen companies go out of business because of this stuff, because they couldn't afford to come back from a breach. Right now, the average cost of a single breach for a small to medium-sized business is around $60,000 to recover. And that has nothing to do with ransomware. That's just general cybersecurity. I got breached. What the heck do I do about it? Because public information or private information got hacked and got addressed, like credit cards or social security numbers, driver's license numbers. The average cost right now, and they researched thousands of businesses, is self-reported is around $60,000. The question is, can you afford $60,000 to make sure you stay in business? I would say a lot of smaller to mid-sized companies, probably not. But as you get into the mid-sized companies, it's not going to be 60,000 because the amount of records that have been breached or have been taken go up, and therefore your fines go up. Now, once that happens, as I said, let's go back to this. Any compliance regulations you have to meet, well, now they're jumping in. and there are fines you have to pay to them, and there's audits you have to do to them, and there's standards you have to redo your infrastructure, and there's privacy, information that you have to update. And so you're getting a double whammy. It's just people at this point that think cybersecurity is unimportant to their business are basically saying, I don't care if I lose my business. I mean, that's what they're saying, because it's really not anymore if you're going to get breached. Okay. It's when and how you're going to get breached, and how severe is it going to be? Is it going to be one employee, their information, they didn't get their password? Or is it going to be they accessed all of your credit card information that you have on file, and now you have to do all the things you need to do around that and pay all the fines and everything?
Yeah. So now let's talk about, your great IT company. They put things in place. They have the dark web monitoring. They have the training, but for whatever reason, something happened. Because like you said, it's not a matter of if, it's when, and now it's how you're going to mitigate that risk. And I know there's the cybersecurity insurance. And whenever I'm meeting with a prospect client, and even when I'm doing my quarterly reviews, even if I talk to the client 3 months ago about cybersecurity insurance, I just reiterate, do you have cybersecurity insurance? Have you talked to your agent? So talk about cybersecurity insurance and how that works.
Sure. Cybersecurity insurance solves everything I just talked about. Now, it doesn't solve the problem, but what it does is it goes into action and helps pay all of those things. It covers you to make sure that doesn't have to come out of your pocket. It's incredibly important nowadays. And again, I've seen a lot of business owners go, that's a lot of money per month. Is it? Is it a lot of money per month to know that legitimately you could go out of business if a breach happened? A $250,000 policy is not that much money. And in a smaller business, it would usually cover everything you need. And it covers some other stuff. It covers, not only paying fines and stuff, but it covers the help redoing your infrastructure. It helps with privacy and InfoSec things that you need to put in place and redo. So I would say it's incredibly important. Look, everybody has car insurance. Why? Well, because it's mandated by law. That's first. But the question is, excuse me, if you're driving, would you still buy, car insurance? Most people would say, well, yeah, because if I get into an accident, I could get sued,
right,
hurt, and everything else. Guess what? You're driving. You'd get car insurance. You're going to work and using technology. You should get cyber liability insurance. You have to think of it the same way. Do you get life insurance? I would say probably 80 to 85% of the general public, gets life insurance. Why? You're not dying. You don't have a disease, but you could. And you want to make sure things are covered like your family. Again, cyber liability insurance, same thing. Well, I haven't been breached. I haven't heard about me being breached. Guess what? And when you do get breached, do you want your business in place? Even if you could stay in business, do you want your 60, 70, 75,000 in place? It's a lot less to buy cybersecurity insurance than it is to have to deal with the aftermath and everything that could occur with that.
Yeah, and I've seen the policies, like you said, a $250,000 policy is like, wow, that's it, to cover this and to have that peace of mind. Because who wants to go in their reserves? Who wants to go out and get a loan? I mean, this is going to be probably one of the worst cases in your business, and you're going through all that. And now you got a regulator coming down. You have clients calling you. You need a breach coach. You may have to pay for credit monitoring. I mean, like there's so much thing you may get to,
Yep.
So there's so much things that happens during that time. Funny enough, I was watching on your LinkedIn profile, and someone talked about how it was a therapist. I don't know if you saw that one. I'll explain it if you, but it was a therapist, and essentially the therapist who does counseling for children. They do, maybe you went through a divorce and you just need someone to talk to, whatever it was. But this therapist got breached, and instead of the hacker going to the therapist and says, hey, we have all of your patient notes, and everybody's deepest secrets. They
We're going to
actually went
release
to the
them.
yeah, they actually went to the patient and went to the patient and says, hey, you need to pay up because we have your deepest notes and we're so I mean these hackers, I mean it's a business. I mean
They don't care. Well, did you hear a while ago? And again, people go, well, that's a big place. Guess what? They're harder to hack. A hospital, they went into, IoT type devices. 3 people died because of their hack, because they went into systems that took other systems offline temporarily that evidently had to do with these patients. And literally look it up for those of you that are going, no, I promise. 3 people died and they attributed it towards the hack and what they got into that they didn't realize they got, to the point where the hacking group, issued an apology. When was the last time you heard that?
Wow.
Because they literally had a life and death consequence because of their actions. And for those of you that are really sitting out there going, oh my God, doom and gloom, I've heard this a million times, whatever. I don't, stop. I've heard this a million times. Look, you can doom and gloom me to death. I'm telling you what I've seen over my 25 years. I'm telling you what I've seen recently, specific and factual. If you want to take on I've heard the doom and gloom before, you're just trying to scare me. No, I'm really not trying to scare you. As a matter of fact, I hope I don't scare you. What I hope is that you get information that makes sense and gets, put into your brain where you walk away at least thinking about parts of these things and how they could be a reality for your business. If you walk away thinking that we're just trying to scare you, then I'm sorry, you're not listening. Because again, at the end of the day, I really don't care about scaring you. I got plenty of people to scare, like my children, my wife, my doctors, my parents. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to provide information that I believe is critical to your business long-term. And I'm not telling you to go out and spend $20,000 with ARC solvers tomorrow, though I wouldn't be opposed. And I'm sure, ARC solvers wouldn't be opposed. What I'm saying is if you change one thing tomorrow, you're on your way to taking a step towards better protecting your business.
Well said, because cybersecurity is, I always say, it's not that one thing. Great that you have a firewall, great that you have antivirus, but it's layers and it's like an onion and you just have to put layers and layers and layers and layers and just, and so that you won't get breached. So Matthew, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for having us, and we love the product and services that you provide because we use them for our customers. So if you are interested in the dark web scan, the training, the cybersecurity insurance, please reach out to us. We'll definitely be letting you know more about it. And have a good day. Again, thank you so much, Matthew.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.